All right, moving up right along with these schedule previews. Next team up is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Quick recap of last year: Oklahoma State 10-4 total record, 9-3 regular season record. Finished second in the Big 12. Now they did get absolutely pummeled in the second half of the Big 12 championship game against Texas, but that Texas team was overpowered. Um, Only one team took them down in the Big 12, and that was their rival Oklahoma, who otherwise, well, Oklahoma did have a good year, but pummels Oklahoma State. They end up winning their bowl game. Mike Gundy, of course, returns as head coach. He's been there since, oh boy, I don't even remember when. Somebody in the comment section tell me how long Mike Gundy's been at Oklahoma State. Everybody remembers him for the famous "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech. That was like almost 20 years ago. It was over 15 years ago. That's how long Mike Gundy's been there. No reason to believe that he's going to be gone unless they either have a string of consistently bad seasons or he retires. Now, that doesn't mean everything has been smooth sailing under Gundy. I do not believe they actually have won a Big 12 title under Mike Gundy. Could this year be the first year under Mike Gundy where they win the Big 12 title? A lot of people are picking them to do so, especially now that Oklahoma and Texas, who have practically ruled the Big 12 over the past 2 decades, are gone. Somebody's got to break out and win it. Could it be Oklahoma State? Well, today we're going to look at their schedule and I'll give you an idea of if I think Oklahoma State is headed towards a Big 12 title game. Starting on week one, you play South Dakota State. South Dakota State's one of the best FCS teams year in and year out, but there's a reason why even the best FCS team cannot beat mid-level FBS teams. Oklahoma State's probably not even a mid-level FBS team. They're probably somewhere in the top 20 of best FBS teams today. If the season were to start today, I think you should beat them handily. Probably around 28 points. I would say you should beat them. If you don't beat them by at least 28 points, something might be wrong. Then you stay at home and you play Arkansas. Arkansas has just been not that good. Sam Pittman's currently the head coach. He was brought in 2020 to right the ship. He had a good start, started to increase how good the team was in 2020, had their breakout year in 2021, but it's been downhill from there. They barely had a winning season in 2022, and then last year they had a losing season. Now, Sam Pittman is trying to refine that magic, I guess you can say. They made a drastic step firing their offensive coordinator. They now bring in Bobby Petrino, which I can make a ton of jokes about. Bobby Petrino and Arkansas from his time there. We all know Bobby Petrino used to be Arkansas's head coach back in the day. He led them to some moderate success in the SEC, especially when you consider that Alabama was on the rise. LSU was still particularly good at that time. Arkansas had some pretty decent seasons, and it looked like maybe Bobby Petrino could stay there for a long time. Unfortunately, he was caught lying about a hire he made for student athlete development coordinator, aka who turned out to be his mistress. And it would have probably flew under the radar had it not been for his motorbike incident. He obviously got fired. Sam Pittman, 20 years later, brings him back. I do think Arkansas's offense is going to be better than it was last year, but Arkansas has just been mismanaged under Pittman ever since 2021. I think Oklahoma State should be able to beat Arkansas this year. Arkansas probably going to be towards the bottom of the SEC. If I were to name who I think is going to be the bottom of the SEC this year, I would say it's probably either going to be Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, or Mississippi State. I don't have a lot of good things to say about Arkansas this year. I think you should blow them out. Then you go on the road at Tulsa. Not sure why you're playing an on the road game against a group of 5 opponent, but anyway, I think you should blow them out. Then then you play probably the toughest stretch of 2 games in your entire um, schedule this year. You start off at home against Utah. Utah is one of those teams that was in the Pac 12 up till last year. Pac 12 obviously fell apart at the seams. Right now, it's only the Pac 2, really. I don't know why those 2 teams aren't considered independent teams. But anyway, the Pac 12, all but 2 members decommitted. Utah was one of them. Utah's been a consistent player in the Pac 12. They were always good in the Pac 12. Last year, kind of one of their lower points, but they also didn't have Cam Rising at all in the season last year. He had a season-ending injury before the year even started and was unable to come back for the season. Chances are he is going to be back. If not, then it's probably a big long-term injury that may end his career. But all indications point to Cam Rising being back for Utah this year. So Utah probably going to be better than they were last year. Now, I'm not sure how they're going to be, being that they're switching from the Pac 12 to the Big 12. I do think Utah has a good season this year. However, I think being that the game is at home for Oklahoma State is going to make the difference. I think they win the game. Then you go on the road to play Kansas State. Kansas State is in a lot of circles to potentially take over the Big 12. There's a whole bunch of teams that are in conversation to take over the Big 12. Now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone. Oklahoma State's obviously one of them. Kansas State, Utah, who's coming over from the Pac-12, is predicted to be a good one. UCF seems to be on the rise. Kansas State has a good case to potentially win the conference. I actually thought they were going to win the conference last year. I was not anticipating that Texas would be as good as they were. This game right here could be an indication we might be seeing a potential Big 12 title game preview with the game between Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Kansas ranked in the top 20. Oklahoma State also ranked within the top 20. It's probably going to be a good game, but I think home field advantage once again makes the difference on this game, except this time Oklahoma State, instead of being on the good side of home field advantage like they are in the Utah game, I think they lose to Kansas State, being that the game is on the road at Kansas State. So I think it will split the Utah and Kansas State games. I'm going with you beat Utah, but then lose to Kansas State. Then you play West Virginia. West Virginia had an unexpectedly good year last year, but can they keep up that success? They've not really been consistently good ever since the Big East folded. Basically, Big East was the precursor to the American Athletic Conference. They were a power. This was back when there were 6 power teams, which, boy, we've kind of aged quickly, haven't we? Not even 15 years ago, or I'm sorry, not even 20 years ago, there were 6 power conferences. Now there's only 4. And 2 of those power conferences that were the Power 6 no longer even exist anymore. Damn. How fast does time fly? Anyway, West Virginia really nothing notable ever since the Big East fell apart. They do have some good seasons here and there, but they're not consistently good like a whole bunch of the other Big 12 schools have been. I also do not think they are going to necessarily set the Big 12 on fire this year. And I think Oklahoma State should be able to beat West Virginia this year. I got it as a win. Then you take your first bye week, again, calendar. Then you go on the road at BYU. BYU, we always ask the question while they were an independent school, how good would they be as a Power 5 school? Because BYU usually has pretty good seasons. Consistently about a 9-win team every year. They went to the Big 12 last year, and let's just say the growing pains for them were big time. They went 5-7. Um, I don't think a lot of people really thought they were going to have a losing season last year, but they did. I haven't really seen anything out of BYU that necessarily indicates that they're going to have a better season from last year. Maybe they do. Maybe last year was just the growing pains, and now that they're used to a Power 5 schedule, maybe they do particularly good. But I'm not really expecting it. I think you're going to be able to beat BYU this year. Then you have a second consecutive road game. You're going on the road at Baylor. Dave Aranda has not really worked out since he started. He did start off, I believe, in his second year, he won the Big 12 title. But ever since then, it's been downhill for Baylor. A lot of people thought they were going to have a bounce back year last year. They instead had a losing season. I see also no indication that Baylor has a good year this year. I think you should beat them. Then you come back home and you play your homecoming game against Arizona State. Arizona State has been on the downward trajectory. They were mismanaged very badly by Herm Edwards. Now, the head coach that's there now, I don't remember his name. He's trying to fix things, but it's just been so horribly mismanaged by Herm Edwards that it's taking a couple years to fix Arizona State from where they were. I think you're going to be able to beat Arizona State this year. Also, I forgot to mention Arizona State's another one of those Pac-12 teams that's coming into the Big 12. Then you play at TCU, and TCU last year was, dare I say it, the most disappointing team in all of football. 2022, TCU went all the way to the national title game. Now, I know they got blown out 65-7, I believe it was, against Georgia. But there was indications that TCU was rising to a good level. They hadn't even sniffed the playoff since before 2022, but they came out of nowhere. They weren't even ranked in the season, and they made it to the playoff and made it to the championship game in 2022. So there was a lot of people expecting good things out of TCU last year. They didn't even make a bowl game. They went 5-7. 5-7. You would be the most disappointing team to go from playoff one year to downwards the next year had it not been for 2019 to 2020 LSU. I don't think you're going to lose to TCU. I think Oklahoma State beats them. Then you have your second bye week after the TCU game, followed up with Texas Tech. Texas Tech was another disappointing Big 12 team from last year. They were expected to contend for the Big 12 title game, but they ended up going 7-6. I think you should be able to beat Texas Tech. Then you play Colorado, another team coming over from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. Colorado, oh boy. The iceberg goes really deep when it comes to Colorado in the past year. Colorado, of course, last year started off with a big win over TCU before we knew how horrible TCU actually was. They win their first 3 games, but then proceed to lose 8 out of their last 9 games. Look, they got some talented pieces there. Shedeur Sanders, good quarterback. Travis Hunter, good on defense. But they have massive holes on both lines of scrimmage, offense and defense. Coach Prime, I'm not going to go as far to say as I think he's a horrible coach. He has done well at the FCS level and the other levels he's coached at, but he is not ready to lead a Power 5 team to a good season. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think Colorado improves from last year. I think they probably get to the 6-6 level. But there's a huge gaping problem when it comes to Colorado, and that's recruiting. A lot of people said when Coach Deion Sanders got there that Deion Sanders was going to turn around Colorado's recruiting program, make it one of the best in the country. They finished, I believe, somewhere in the 70s when it comes to recruiting last year. It's just not a good situation, and Deion has even himself said that he does not like recruiting and would rather focus on the transfer portal. I know I made fun of Dabo Swinney in the Georgia video because Dabo Swinney refuses to use the transfer portal. The exact opposite extreme that's also really bad comes from Deion Sanders, which is over relying on the transfer portal. He brought in, I want to say, like 40 transfers in year one and a similar amount this year. Look, I know you need to use the transfer portal to plug up holes in your offense. Right, Dabo Swinney? You also cannot rely on the transfer portal because you need something called cohesion in your roster. Transfer portal doesn't do that. Most transfers, they're gone within 2 years. They either have only 1 or 2 years left of eligibility, or they'll transfer and then they'll not like your school and they'll transfer out again. That's what's happening to Colorado. Now, Colorado, I said I think they go 6-6 this year. One of those 6 wins is not Oklahoma State. I think by that point, your depth is going to really be in the toilet like it was last year. That's why you lost 8 of your last 9 games last year. You don't have the depth, and that's bad because at that point, people are beat up. If you have good depth like Alabama, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, you can replace those players and have very minimal loss of step. But if you have the depth of Colorado, you're going to lose a lot. I think Oklahoma State beats Colorado, and probably not even going to be close. There you go. Oklahoma State, 11-1, one loss. Kansas State, I think Oklahoma State makes the Big 12 title game. All right, stay tuned. Next prediction video coming up is going to be, we're going to go back to the Big 10. We're going to go ahead and look at the Ohio State Buckeyes. Until then, I'll see you later. Roll Tide.